Greetings! Today I would like to talk to you about Koihime Enbu and why exactly I think that it is a fighting game worthy of attention. If you are newer to fighting games, like I once was, you might find yourself gravitating to the newest releases of popular series. There is nothing wrong with any of these, but depending on the game, they can allow for players to do far more than they otherwise might in a more basic style game. If you stick with the genre long enough, you too might find that your tastes change. Gameplay between fighting games can vary wildly, and finding the one that best supports the aspects you most enjoy is important. I am keenly aware that this game will likely not appeal to many people based purely on its aesthetics alone. An all-female cast turns off a lot of people. It is a work derived from a visual novel after all. It is also using 3D models, which can look a bit odd at first. Aesthetics aside, this game does a lot of things right in the competitive fighting game department. What are those things? Allow me to elaborate. To start with, this game is very easy for anyone to get into and play. In no time at all, anyone can feel like a pro. The gameplay is mostly poking and keeping proper spacing, and combos are very limited. Characters all have 3 special attacks that all have 4 variations. Very easy and predictable. If you are fortunate enough to land a fatal counter though, you can seriously bring the pain. Fatal counter combos can do a ton of damage, and they are not even that complicated to execute. The roster is only 13 characters. I know this might be a black mark for a lot of people, however I disagree. Learning matchups in general can be pretty hard. Learning hundreds of different matchups is just flat out unreasonable. This game only has a potential 91 matchups versus the staggering 561 potential matchups for the latest BlazBlue. Granted, most people don't play every character, but even on a small 1-character scale, that becomes a ridiculous 33 matchups for BlazBlue. Next up, and this may sound like a negative, but again, I do not think so. This game is set up to where you are typically unable to overwhelm your opponent. There are no guard cancels in this game as a result. If you are put in a position to where you have to block, then it is your responsibility to find a way out of it. Whether that is burning meter for an EX attack of some kind, or looking for a gap in the pressure so that you can poke out of it, is up to you to handle it. There are also no bursts of any type in this game. Again, the responsibility is on the player to figure out ways of breaking their opponent's attacks. If you get caught by a fatal counter, then it might very well be lights out for you, and you need to be okay with that. Conversely, if you are on offense, then all these problems are on your opponent. The last thing I want to go over is commitment. You absolutely have to be careful about jumping in this game. You only get 1 jump and typically only 1 action. It's an easy punish and very easy fatal counter depending on the character. There are no metered cancels in this game. Most things are somewhat negative on blocks, so you had better take that into account when you start swinging away. Not to mention the heavier attacks tend to have a lot more startup as well. You cannot just wave away a screw up with the press of a button and a little bit of meter. Play responsibly. You have to be smart about what you are doing in Koihime Enbu. Patience is rewarded here. If you play sloppy, you can be absolutely destroyed. Getting hit with a fatal counter is almost always bad news. Even without meter, these combos can inflict some serious damage. You absolutely cannot afford to mess around in this game because you will get hurt. In closing, the thing to take away from this is that Koihime Enbu is a very easy game to get into that rewards competent and patient play. Characters are all pretty unique despite the simplicity. If you manage to squeeze out a fatal counter, you can really pile on the damage. Outside of that, damage is not that high and it is mostly a poking match. You have to live or die by the decisions you make, and nothing in this game will fix it for you. If this sounds good to you, then please check out this game. It is available on Steam right now, as well as its really kick-ass original soundtrack. In addition to this, I've also compiled detailed notes on all the characters in my previous videos to help anyone get started. I will provide some information about all of this, including the source material, in the description below. I do want to point out that this is not in any way a paid promotion. I want to make that clear. I did this because I genuinely think this game could use some love. I want to thank Degika especially for bringing us a localized version of this game. It was literally the most unexpected thing to see this pop up on Steam. Thank you very much for watching, and please feel free to continue watching the gameplay provided.